Russia's President Vladimir Putin has declared 4 parts of occupied Ukraine to be part of Russia. The annexation is a violation of international law. In a ceremony at the Kremlin, Putin claimed the illegal annexation was the choice of millions who wanted to join the Russian Federation. He added Moscow would defend its land with all of its means. Western leaders have vowed to never recognize the illegal annexation, the largest land grab in Europe since World War II. Putin had this to say to Ukraine and to Ukraine's Western allies in his speech.
I want Kyiv and their real masters in the West to hear me, so that everyone remembers that people living in Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia are becoming our citizens forever.
And here's how some people in Ukraine reacted to Putin's illegal annexation.
This is a terrorist way of violently taking away territories that have been formed and attached to Ukraine a very long time ago. My reaction to this is sharply negative.
I am from Mariupol myself, and I know people who are remaining there. They're waiting for Ukraine to return. There's no question about that. We just need to gather strength and be patient. I think what is happening is lawless. There is no other way to put it. What's most scary and unclear is what will be next. We have no idea how this will end. That is sad.
And earlier we asked our correspondent Matthias Böllinger in Kyiv to tell us more about the Ukrainian government's reaction to Russia's illegal annexation.
Well, Kyiv has already reacted. There has been a session of the National Security Council, and the immediate answer by Ukraine is that they are issuing a demand to accelerate the or that they are asking NATO to take them into the alliance in an accelerated process.
Now, many people are concerned about the possibility of this conflict going nuclear. Does this illegal annexation increase the risk of Putin using nuclear weapons?
Well, in the case that the Kremlin would decide to use nuclear weapons, this would serve probably as the pretext, because what Russia is saying now is that any fighting that goes on in these occupied territories of Ukraine would be fighting that would be going on Russian territory. So they will now claim Russian territory being attacked. Whether this means that it's more probable that they use something like this, that they use a nuclear weapon on Ukraine or some territory in Ukraine, this is not that clear. They will make this decision probably not according to any formal principles, but to 2 main considerations. They will think whether it will benefit them, whether they will get anything out of it, and the second thing they will think about is whether they will get away with it.
Now, on the same day that Russia is illegally annexing parts of Zaporizhzhia, Kyiv says Russian forces have fired a missile on a civilian convoy in that very same region. What can you tell us about the attack?
These were cars that were driving towards the occupied territories. There's one checkpoint currently where people can cross over between the occupied territories and those under control of the Ukrainian government. They were driving from the city of Zaporizhzhia towards these territories, and they have been hit, as we are hearing, by 16 rockets. That's, of course, quite a lot, and we see a lot of casualties here. More than 20 people dead and more than 30 people injured in this convoy that was bringing aid to the occupied territories and was supposed to bring people on its way back out of there.
Now, attacks like this and also Moscow's illegal annexation, what does it tell us about how Russia is doing in its war against Ukraine?
Well, what we've seen in the past few weeks is that that Russia has lost a lot of territory. The Ukrainian counteroffensive in the Kharkiv region was extremely successful. They were able to take back a lot of territory in very few days, and now we are most likely seeing a siege. The ring is not fully closed yet, but it's almost closed around the city of Liman that Russia has taken in May, and that is one of the bigger towns in Donbas region, and it would be the first major settlement in the Donbas region to be taken back by Ukraine. If they can take it back, it doesn't look very good there for the Russians, who are about to be encircled there. So we might be seeing another major defeat in this region in the next few days. Of course, this is a war. Things can go one way or the other way. But at the moment, it looks like the Russians are really on the defensive.
Matthias Böllinger there reporting from Kyiv. Thank you, Matthias. And earlier I spoke to Stefan Meister from the German Council on Foreign Relations, and I asked him for his reaction to the Russian president's announcement today.
No, I think what is striking is that Putin does not speak much about the annexed territories, but he's mostly speaking about the conflict between Russia and the West. He's blaming the West for what is going on. He's on one hand offering if there would be a willingness on the other side for negotiations, he would be willing. But then he's talking most of the time about how the West wants to attack Russia, how it is this Russophobe. He speaks about also values and principles, Russian values and principles. So it's a very classical speech about the Putin ideology, and it shows that he's really willing to further escalate the whole conflict and is not willing to do any negotiations.
Does this sound like it comes from a man who is still in control?
I think most of the people who are sitting in this room, they can expect somehow what Putin wants, but I think in the end he decides in the last moment what he's really doing. Yeah. So, and I think he is somehow out of control. I think he is really pushing this forward. You can see his emotion, and we saw it today also in the speech, how emotional he is and how he is not on the ground. Also in how his army is suffering in Ukraine, and how difficult it will be, even with the mobilization and with the annexation, to win further territory for the Russian Federation.
Rather chillingly, Putin has said again that he will use, quote, any means at his disposal to defend Russian territory. Does that mean nuclear weapons?
Sure, I think this is part of the information campaign, that he's trying to threaten Western and especially European societies with nuclear weapons. And I think the risk is there. We should not underestimate this. But I cannot imagine that he will use even tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine because of these 4 territories. This might be different with Crimea. Yeah, if Ukraine is trying to get Crimea back. But I think the risks for him also globally to be isolated are really very high, and also the West would react much more harshly. So I don't think that this is the time to use nuclear weapons for Putin.
Stefan Meister there from the German Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.